Challenge question. Welcome to the channel. Please consider subscribing. I produce videos daily, covering a wide variety of cloud topics with a focus on networking. Today's topic addresses a critical challenge in managing Google Cloud Platform networking at scale: network service tiers. This question explores how to efficiently configure network service tiers across an entire organization when developers have been using misaligned tiers that need to be standardized. The scenario presents a common real-world problem. Developers across different projects have been selecting network service tiers that don't align with the organization's objectives. This creates inconsistency, potentially higher costs, and suboptimal network performance. The challenge is to find the most efficient way to set a consistent network service tier policy across all resources in all projects within the organization. Understanding the Google Cloud resource hierarchy is crucial here. At the top, we have the organization, which contains projects, and projects contain resources. Network service tiers can be configured at different levels in this hierarchy, and understanding where to make changes for maximum efficiency is key to answering this question correctly. Let's examine each option to understand why option 3 provides the most efficient solution for organization-wide network service tier management. Understanding network service tiers. Before diving into the answer analysis, let's understand what network service tiers are and why they matter. Google Cloud offers two network service tiers: Premium and Standard. This choice affects how your traffic is routed from Google's network to the internet and vice versa. Premium tier routes traffic over Google's high-performance global network. Your traffic enters and exits Google's network at the location closest to your users, providing lower latency, higher reliability, and better performance. This is ideal for latency-sensitive applications, global services, and mission-critical workloads. Standard tier routes traffic over the public internet using standard ISP networks. Traffic enters and exits Google's network in the same region as your Google Cloud resources. While this offers good performance for regional applications, it's more cost-effective than Premium tier, making it suitable for cost-sensitive, regionally focused workloads. The tier selection impacts not just performance and cost, but also feature availability. Some Google Cloud networking features, like Cloud CDN and global load balancing with Anycast IPs, require Premium tier. Understanding these differences helps explain why organizations need consistent tier policies. In our scenario, developers choosing tiers independently has likely resulted in a mix of Premium and Standard tiers across projects. This creates cost unpredictability and inconsistent user experiences. The organization needs a streamlined way to enforce a uniform policy. Option 1 is incorrect because it suggests selecting a project under Operations, then selecting Network Service Tiers and changing the tier to set the organization Network Service Tier for all projects. This option fundamentally misunderstands how Google Cloud's resource hierarchy works. The critical flaw here is that you cannot set an organization-wide policy from within a project. Projects exist within organizations, not the other way around. When you're in a project's settings, any changes you make only affect that specific project, not the entire organization. This option seems to confuse project-level settings with organization-level policies. In Google Cloud, if you navigate to a specific project and change its network service tier, you're only modifying that single project's default tier. There's no mechanism to propagate this change upward to the organization level or laterally to other projects. Additionally, setting the organization network service tier from within a project context is architecturally impossible. Organization-wide settings must be configured at the organization level, not from within individual projects. This approach would require manually changing the tier in every single project across the organization, which is exactly the inefficient process we're trying to avoid. For organizations with dozens or hundreds of projects, this would be time-consuming and error-prone. Why option 2 is incorrect? Option 2 proposes selecting an organization under Operations, selecting Network Service Tiers, and changing the tier to set the project Network Service Tier. While this option correctly identifies that we should start at the organization level, it misunderstands what can be configured there. The issue with this option is in its conclusion, to set the project network service tier. This suggests setting individual project tiers from the organization level, which is not how the interface works. When you're at the organization level, you set organization-wide defaults, not individual project settings. This option seems to imply a one-by-one project configuration approach but initiated from the organization level. However, Google Cloud does not provide an interface to individually manage each project's network tier from the organization console. That would defeat the purpose of having organization-level management. The wording creates confusion about the scope of the change. If you're at the organization level making changes, you're setting organization policies that apply broadly, not making project-specific configurations. This semantic confusion suggests a misunderstanding of how hierarchical policies work in Google Cloud. While starting at the organization level is correct, the intended action and scope described in this option make it an incorrect approach for efficiently managing network service tiers across all projects. Why option 3 is correct? Option 3 correctly states the procedure. Select an organization, under Networking, select Network Service Tiers, and then change the tier to set the organization network service tier for all projects. This is the most efficient and correct approach for several reasons. First, it properly starts at the organization level, which is the correct scope for making organization-wide changes. In Google Cloud's resource hierarchy, organization-level settings cascade down to all projects unless explicitly overridden. This inheritance model is designed specifically for scenarios like ours. Second, it correctly navigates to the networking section rather than operations. Network service tiers are a networking configuration, and Google Cloud Console organizes them under the networking menu at the organization level. This reflects the logical grouping of related settings. Third, and most importantly, it accurately describes the outcome, setting the organization network service tier that applies to all projects. When you set a network service tier at the organization level, it becomes the default for all new resources created in any project within that organization. Existing resources may need to be updated, but the policy ensures consistency going forward. This approach solves the stated problem efficiently. Instead of visiting each project individually, a single configuration at the organization level establishes the desired tier as the default across the entire organization. This is exactly what's needed to minimize the misalignment issue mentioned in the scenario. Why option 4 is incorrect? Option 4 suggests selecting a project under Networking, then selecting Network Service Tiers and changing the tier to set the project network service tier. This option has multiple issues that make it incorrect for the stated goal. The most obvious problem is scope. This option only describes changing the network service tier for a single project. The scenario explicitly asks for the most efficient way to set the tier for all resources in a project within an organization. Option 4 would require repeating this process for every project in the organization. For an organization with multiple projects, which is typical, this approach is highly inefficient. If you have 50 projects, you would need to navigate to each project individually, find the network service tiers setting, and make the change. This is time-consuming, prone to human error, and difficult to maintain. Additionally, this project-by-project approach doesn't establish any organizational policy. New projects created after this manual process would still default to whatever tier developers choose, perpetuating the original problem. There's no enforcement mechanism to prevent future misalignment. While the navigation path of project, then networking, then network service tiers is correct for changing a single project's tier, it's not the efficient solution the question seeks. This option represents the current problematic state where each project's tier is managed independently rather than through centralized policy. Let's walk through the actual implementation of option 3, including both the Cloud Console approach and the G-Cloud command line method. Understanding the practical steps reinforces why this is the most efficient approach. In the Cloud Console, you start by ensuring you have the necessary permissions. Typically, You need to be an organization administrator or have the network admin role at the organization level. Then, you navigate to the organization selector at the top of the console and choose your organization. Once at the organization level, you'll find the networking section in the left navigation menu. Under networking, you'll see network service tiers. This is different from the project level navigation, where network service tiers appears under VPC network settings. The G-Cloud command approach is even more straightforward and perfect for automation. You can set the organization-wide default with a single command, and even script it for multiple organizations if needed. This programmatic approach is particularly valuable for large enterprises managing multiple Google Cloud organizations. It's important to note that setting the organization default doesn't immediately change existing resources. Resources created before the policy change retain their original tier. However, all new resources will use the organization default unless explicitly overridden. For existing resources, you may need to run a migration script, but having the organizational policy in place prevents future misalignment. Understanding how network service tier policies are inherited and can be overridden is crucial for effective organization management. Let me explain the hierarchy and precedence rules that make option 3 so powerful. When you set a network service tier at the organization level, it establishes a default that cascades down through the resource hierarchy. This means any new VPC network, load balancer, or public IP address created in any project will automatically use the organization's default tier unless specified otherwise. However, Google Cloud allows for flexibility through explicit overrides. A project can set its own default network service tier that overrides the organization default. Similarly, individual resources can specify their tier, overriding both project and organization defaults. This creates a precedence hierarchy. A resource-specific setting overrides the project default, and the project default overrides the organization default. This flexibility is important for large organizations that might have specific projects requiring different tiers. For example, while the organization might standardize on standard tier for cost optimization, a project running global, latency-sensitive applications might override to use premium tier. The beauty of option 3's approach is that it establishes a sensible default while maintaining flexibility. It solves the immediate problem of inconsistent tier selection while allowing for legitimate exceptions. This is why setting the policy at the organization level is more efficient than trying to enforce it at the project level. You establish the rule once and manage exceptions as needed. Cost and performance implications. Let's explore the real-world impact of properly managing network service tiers across an organization. The scenario mentions minimizing misalignment, but what does this mean in terms of actual costs and performance? From a cost perspective, premium tier typically costs about 2 to 3 times more than standard tier for egress traffic. For an organization with significant outbound traffic, having developers randomly choose premium tier when standard would suffice can lead to substantial unnecessary costs. Conversely, using standard tier for global applications can result in poor user experience and potential SLA violations. Consider a scenario where an organization has 100 projects, and due to lack of policy, 60% are using premium tier unnecessarily. If each project generates 10 terabytes of monthly egress traffic, the cost difference could be thousands of dollars per month. By implementing option 3's organization-wide policy, you immediately standardize future resource creation. Performance implications are equally important. Premium tier can reduce latency by 20 to 30% for global traffic patterns. If your organization's standard is premium tier for customer-facing applications, having some projects accidentally use standard tier creates inconsistent user experiences. Users might experience different performance levels depending on which project serves their request. By setting an organization-wide default, you ensure consistency in both cost management and performance characteristics. This alignment is crucial for accurate capacity planning, budget forecasting, and maintaining consistent SLAs across all applications. Summary and key takeaways. Let's recap why option 3 is the correct and most efficient solution for managing network service tiers across a Google Cloud organization. Option 3 correctly identifies that organization-level configuration is the key to efficient management. By selecting the organization, navigating to networking, not operations, and setting the network service tier there, you establish a default that automatically applies to all projects and future resources. This single action replaces what would otherwise require visiting each project individually. The incorrect options each had fundamental flaws. Options 1 and 4 operated at the project level, which would require repetitive manual work for each project. Option 1 additionally tried to set organization policy from within a project, which is architecturally impossible. Option 2, while starting at the organization level, misunderstood the scope and suggested setting individual project tiers from there, which isn't how the interface works. The efficiency of option 3 extends beyond the initial configuration. By establishing an organization-wide policy, you prevent future misalignment. New projects automatically inherit the correct tier, and developers must explicitly override if they have a legitimate need for a different tier. This changes the default behavior from potentially incorrect to organizationally aligned. Remember, effective cloud governance isn't just about solving today's problems, it's about preventing tomorrow's issues. Option 3 provides both immediate remediation and long-term governance, making it the clear choice for efficient network service tier management. Thank you for your attendance. Please consider subscribing to the channel.